episode 232 of the TV Dudes podcast, recorded April 10th, 2019. Witches, monsters, and zombies.
Oh, I know this won't make sense to the listeners, but I'm going to say it anyway. The last episode that we recorded, because of the magic of nonlinear recording, was Tooth Hurty. And this one is Tooth Hurty 2.
It is a sequel. It's the sequel. The dentist appointment returns.
That would also the dentist, great concept for horror movies.
Oh, right.
Candyman.
Indeed.
Man.
And The Dentist with Corbin Burnson.
The dentist named Crentist, I believe.
I actually thought Candyman was the one about dentist. I've never seen Candyman.
You've never seen Candyman? No, it's not about dentists.
I think it's about eating candy. It's a guy who eats a bunch of candy.
Loves candy.
Referenced it. I hadn't seen it.
If you eat
Mistake.
if you eat a bit of honey in front of a mirror and say his name 3 times, he will appear and steal your candy. I haven't seen it either, but I saw the trailers. I think that's what happens.
All right, we have to go stop this episode and watch Candyman.
No, we clearly have to do a Patreon where we talk about what the movie Candyman is about.
Yes,
just
having
like we
never
do.
seen.
Yes,
Just like Maze Runner.
Oh man,
I've seen Candyman. I will buzz when you guys get something right.
folks, we are the TV Dudes. I'm Grant.
I'm Randy.
Kyle.
Les.
And we are on Patreon.com, patreon.com/TV
I'm so
Dudes.
surprised.
And I want to say that if you guys go there and make a per episode pledge, give us $1 or $2 an episode, you'll be able to hear us talk about certain silly things like we once tried to describe what we thought happened in the entire Maze Runner trilogy, having never read the books, heard a synopsis, or seen it, just based on the titles.
And maybe no, what even the trailers really? It was just based on the titles.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen the trailers. I think I've seen bits and pieces.
You saw the one where they cured death then.
Death Cure.
You know how like the TV guide loop will run in the background and you'll see like 2 seconds of Maze Runner, but the same 2 seconds over and over again?
Yeah.
I'd seen that. And I based everything.
There's like a
I said off
labyrinth,
that.
and they're running through it, and that's all I know.
Hey, that's a maze.
I think that kid from Radio Flyer is in it.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, anyway, go look up that Patreon.
Oh, hey, we have an episode to discuss today, which is not going to be related to the Maze Runner, I think. Oh, shit. The first episode we're talking about is the Maze Runner.
Yeah.
We're talking about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which is back for season 2 over on Netflix. What We Do in the Shadows is brand new over on FX. Twilight Zone is rebooted over on CBS All Access. And Netflix has brought back season 2 of Santa Clarita Diet. Season 3. My mistake. I missed a whole entire season there. So
They do a really good recap. I did skipped season 2, jumped right into this, and didn't miss a beat.
But you should go back
You should
watch these.
definitely
I actually do
watch
want to
season 2.
go back and check that out.
Yeah, for sure.
well, you guys want to dive into it?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
First up, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, season 2. What'd you guys think?
Now we are including the
Christmas
special, right?
They do in their counting. So
Yeah, okay.
like Midwinter's Tale or whatever it is.
Who all is caught up?
I have seen all but the last episode of season 2.
I am not caught up.
I caught up in a crazy binge in the last couple of days.
So this was the one that fell. There was so much to watch these last couple of weeks, and also there's a whole bunch of Marvel movies to watch before Avengers. So I fell a little behind in my watching. I did not get through all of this. I saw the Christmas special and the first 2 episodes of season 2.
I'd watched all of the first season because of us reviewing it, and I liked it, but there was something about the way they do the focus. They sharpen just what they want you to see in the frame, and then everything else fuzzes out from it. And they do it as a callback to like old horror.
Sure.
But it threw me through the whole first season, and I was ready for it when I came back. But I had held off watching this. I knew the Christmas special would come out, and I don't know that I would have sat down and binge watched this if we weren't going to talk about it.
Yeah.
But once I hit play on it and I started doing a little bit of stuff around the house, and I found myself kind of sitting down and like, no, this is moving too fast. I can't really go do anything. I'm into this.
Really? Okay. I have friends who adore this show, and I liked it, but it definitely didn't make my favorites list or anything.
I still don't I feel like if I go away from it, it will fade, and I don't want to go like proselytize it to everyone I know.
Right.
Like I'm not head over heels in love with it. That said, season 2 is so fun. The character of Theo transitioning is wonderful and really nicely handled. But everybody, her mortal friends, the witch friends, she goes over to the academy more, and they do more on that side of it. Mostly, same thing that they did in season 1. I am jaw-dropped by how committed they are to the whole Church of Night Satan.
Yeah, they're all cannibals.
Like, not even in a and no wink and nod. Like, like hail Satan, double down every time. Like there's a moment in season 2 where something happens to Sabrina and her power set just changes.
Yeah.
And she goes, someone even references Dark Phoenix.
Huh.
And it doesn't end there. Like it keeps going forward, but she is of a whole like freaking witches out scary. And it is so fucked up satisfying.
Huh.
And so evil.
Okay.
Like prophetic, horrible, like Hellboy level evil. And I'm watching this going, and this is like how surprising Sleepy Hollow was that first season.
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
like, holy shit, these monsters are monsters.
Yeah.
Only this thing is keeping that Archie comic, or not Archie. I mean, it is Archie.
It is Archie, yeah.
But it's keeping that comic book vibe that they've got. Like, it all kind of feels Curious Creations of Christine McConnell a little bit.
Yeah.
But it is so blood-drippingly evil, like...
Yeah, it's got a little bit of vibe of like the early Supernatural stuff where the monsters were scary and the mythology was interesting.
People fucking die.
People die. And also, I like seeing the glimpse of this mirror world where they just worship Satan casually. When it's the school play and it's about the fall of Lucifer and Lilith and all that stuff. And by the way, that sneaks in and his backstory for one of their characters was very cleverly done.
They have to deal with what are basically freaky, shiny... happy missionary kids that are the witch hunters in this show.
Oh man.
And they are spectacular. Like,
that's great.
It's like watching Paul Dano in full like There Will Be Blood mode show up to somebody like to the Spellman house.
And Kiernan Shipka is fantastic.
Yes, she does great as Sabrina. Like, really, I like all the casting. They introduced Nick Scratch as her love interest in this.
I like him a lot.
And I really like that kid, and I expected to be like, would you get out of the way for Harvey?
Yeah.
He's really great.
Yeah, he's great. The ants are fantastic.
Yeah, the Weird Sisters are still good. The ants are great. I really love the difference between Zelda and Hilda.
I like the change in the Weird Sisters where they were sort of her bullies, and now they're like her allies. I thought that was a really good change.
But it's not, the show handles it better than just deciding like, oh, you work better as her friends, because they're still not friends.
No,
they're allies at times, though. And they have a respect. Like, there's a straight respect for Sabrina, even though they're still a little jealous.
Yeah.
Michelle Gomez is the like MVP of the show for me. Her playing, I don't know if we knew in the first season who she really was.
I don't think we found out until season 2.
But I was shocked. I mean, I was very happy to find out who she really was and like what the larger plan was going to be. And I'm still not entirely sure what side she's on, but I'm kind of loving that.
Yeah.
I know that there's a prophecy, like the Dark Lord's got a whole plan for Sabrina, but I genuinely don't know who actually wants it completed.
Right.
And who's subverting it. I will absolutely be surprised with whatever happens at the end of this, because I really don't know who still has an ace up their sleeve or they're all so evil, and they also proudly have hidden selfish motives and no loyalties.
Yeah.
Also, we get Dorian Gray this season, and he's just fucking
great. That's great.
Oh, for real?
Yes.
Nice.
He's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really fun show. I don't know if I'll get around to it just because there's so much else to watch, but I do like it quite a bit.
I'm kind of glad that we talked about it, because I wouldn't have hit play on it, I don't think.
It's interesting.
Well, this seems like something that they would release around Halloween.
Yeah, it is weird that they released it in the middle of spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they did release it in Halloween. They released part 1.
Yeah,
and I
that's
wonder
what
if they just...
And Stranger Things is coming around like 4th of July.
But that's because it's the summer of '84, or '86 or whatever.
And I
it
feel
is.
like Stranger Things has kind of crossed over into genre, kind of like it didn't come out, or did it? No, I think it came out in the summer.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I feel like that's something Stranger Things can do. But for this, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it has.
I've
the
enjoyed
same
binging
following
this,
yet.
but I found myself kind of wishing that this was a week-to-week show.
Yeah.
Just because right now we're in like hate mid-season finales, but every show seems to do them now.
Yeah.
And so for several things I watched, there's a weird gap for the last few weeks, and it would have been nice if like these things weren't sitting out there as this looming 12 hours you ought to watch.
Right.
Because like I think about a show like, oh, I haven't watched the second season or the third season of whatever. I'm like, shit, I don't want to sit down and start that. Like I'll have to remember which part of a clump of episodes I'm in when I go to, like I do miss some shows doling themselves out.
Yeah, it's fair.
It's planning. Who wants to do that?
Well, let's talk about what we do in the shadows.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement have collaborated once again on producing this. They're no longer starring in it, but they are producing this, and they've cast a whole bunch of great actors to have a new clan of vampires that are living in Long Island or somewhere over around New York area.
I just want to know if they run into werewolves.
Not
That's
in the
actually
not the first 2 episodes.
episode 3. I looked at the coming up this week. Or I guess it will be weeks ago by the time you've listened to this. But yeah, by the time we've recorded this, only the first 2 episodes have come out. But
And this is FX, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Did either of you guys see this during South by?
No.
Oh, okay. So I
Was
saw
that
this.
just us who saw it, Grant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Badges. Sorry.
yeah, so we saw that at South by, and Taika and Jermaine were both there. And
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It was
It
pretty
was
awesome.
Awesome. They just did like this little I don't even know if you'd call it a Q&A. Like nobody was really answering any questions. They were just like improvising and doing
It
like a
was
stand-up
the
comedy
most
thing.
awkward, I think, Q&A I've ever seen. The dude who was doing it was from like the Hollywood Reporter, I think, and he seemed like he was stoned and really wasn't like he was just kind of like reading his notes or whatever and not reading the room or at least reading the people that he was interviewing. And like he would just kind of ask those questions like where you kind of lose. Okay, obviously, I'm not saying focus on this review of the show itself, but he asked these questions where he's like, "So, your character's lived for this long. How does he maintain a love or an affection for this other character that's lived this long, or something like
How is that what the show is about at all?
Exactly.
It's one of those things where the actors aren't the actual characters, and they don't have to fully live that character and like write their whole backstory just for them to do comedy.
All the responses were like that too. I feel like somebody said something close to that.
Like they were just kind of making fun of him, but he just
vampire.
he like just kind of like kept like rolling with the same dumb questions, and like everyone was just like, "All right, well, we'll just talk to
Very
each
method.
other."
I've been living on blood for the last year. It's,
It was so weird. Yeah.
Leatherwood.
I watched this in the comfort of my own home
It's so
with
good,
snacks
isn't
and
it?
drinks. So, I'm fine.
What'd you think?
Oh, I loved it.
The introduction of the energy vampire.
Oh, my God.
It's so brilliant.
So, first of all, I want to talk about Matt Berry, the guy who's playing one of the main vampires, is from like Snuffbox
and IT
Hell
crowd.
yeah.
and IT Crowd, and
He's
he is
so good.
so good.
Yeah.
But I don't know who all the other actors and actresses are. I've looked up on IMDb, and I'm like, I don't know what else.
Except for
this
the
guy's
energy
done.
vampire guy.
Yeah, except for the energy vampire. And they're all great.
He's Nate from The Office. That's the only thing
Yeah.
I can remember, but he's been in a bunch of stuff.
Everybody in it is great. It's a half hour, which I love. I love that it just goes by, and it's so funny. Like, I love the movie, but I almost think this is better seeing them develop these. The woman having a sort of a maternal interest or a maternal interest in the one girl who's like the nerd girl who she's going to teach to become like a seductress. I can't wait to see that go wrong.
That they bring in these LARPers.
Yes.
They're like,
Yeah.
we'll get some nerdy ass LARPers, and
Yeah.
Well,
they're great virgins to go ahead and suck the blood
Yeah,
out.
that's one of my favorite parts is that's where they go to get the virgins.
Yeah, yeah. I love the relationship between the familiar and the head vampire.
Yeah.
It's
Same,
so
yeah.
good.
Guillermo.
Guillermo.
And it kind of made me realize that was a missed opportunity in the movie because the familiar in the film, like she had some of the best parts of the movie. And yeah, they didn't use her as much as they're using this guy.
Yeah. Well, he's sort of the point of view character. Guillermo's the guy who's talking to the camera because they're making it. I mean, what we do the Shadows is a mockumentary, and so we've had tons of mockumentaries on TV. And it worked in the movie, but it works even better on TV because it's also at the same time sort of an office send up and that kind of thing. And I love the idea of there's a point where the like the big bad vampire comes from over the old country, and they tell him, "Oh no, those cameras there. We're doing a documentary." And just the notion of telling this master vampire that you were in a documentary, don't worry about those guys, just cracked me up.
Yeah, it almost seemed like he was like trying to fix his hair too, but he has like one strand of hair.
Yes,
I think they fully capture the same energy, the same humor that they had in the movie, but the legs that this obviously is going to have, the ability for them to explore a lot more avenues that they couldn't in just a movie, is pretty exciting for this show.
So, do you guys remember what your like biggest laugh was? I think for me it was the raccoon carcasses outside the city council. when I saw the offering, that killed me.
Man, I don't know. I think just the energy vampire introduction in the first one was just killing me.
Seeing his reaction at the city council meeting, the energy vampire, when they're like go, and he's like, I can't get up if you know what I mean.
That actor, Mark Proksch.
Oh yeah,
my first introduction to him. I don't know if you guys ever saw this, but he was like trying to before he like got some roles on like TV shows. He pretended he was like an expert yo-yo master.
I do remember this.
You?
Yes.
He like went on to all these like local news shows, like where he was like, "Oh yeah, I do a lot of competitions. I do teaching at schools as well of yo-yo stuff." And go on there and he didn't know he couldn't do anything. It was just like a big mess, and they're like, "What have we gotten ourselves into with this yo-yo guy?"
That's
great. If you guys get a chance, check it out. It's so good.
One of my favorite things about this show is the marketing, where they've got this shot. You see all of the vampires from the nose down, and their teeth are glowing white.
Yeah,
and then you've got the familiar. He's wearing the green glow-in-the-dark vampire teeth, and they're like falling out of his mouth. It looks so sharp.
It's a great looking poster.
I was a little nervous about this because I was worried it wasn't going to translate, and I didn't want to dislike it. And I'm so pleased that it lived up to all the hype.
Well, I'm really glad, in the first episode, if you're familiar with the film or a fan of the film, they hit a lot of those same beats. And I was a little worried going into episode 2 that they were going to do that throughout the whole series.
Yeah.
And no, they just use it as a jumping off point. And they even kind of put a little different spin on a few things. But by episode 2, I definitely get the sense it's going to be its own story.
It still has a little bit of a British, no, I shouldn't say British, I should say New Zealand sensibility, but there's something a little bit of that kind of comedic sensibility that seems foreign still in a way, and I wonder if as those guys kind of, because I'm sure they're doing so many other projects, they kind of pass the reins over to American producers just kind of take over and like run the show, if it will start kind of changing a little bit of the tone.
Maybe.
Well, I think something they changed in these first 2 episodes, which they had to, but in the film they did some some actual on the street improv stuff, where they were walking out in front of bars and like interacting with people who weren't necessarily just random people they found on the street.
Yeah.
So they do like a scene in a grocery store, and it's obviously trying to recapture that same thing, but it's very easy to tell. It's all actors in there, right? And they're just kind of improvising that. So I'm like, I don't think they need to try that like man on the street type stuff unless you have a funny idea for it. But I feel like it was funnier in the film because all the vampires are just dressed so ridiculous. Seeing them like at a nightclub with people who are dressed, in modern clothes, the real people have reactions. It's hard to fake that with actors.
Right.
I think in the film, besides the swearwolves not werewolves bit, which everybody loved, their Nosferatu roommate I think was my favorite running bit in the film.
Oh yeah.
And I haven't seen the show yet, so I don't know if he came with them.
So they kind of traded Nosferatu for the energy vampire.
Okay.
Which I had that same feeling. Like I was really sad to not see
They may
him.
have already worked the joke that I would have cared about out of that character, like the Nosferatu. Like the best part of that in the movie for me was them trying to go ask him for rent and then just like giving up.
I feel like the old country vampire that they bring in is going to be that guy.
Oh, right, yeah.
Well, the thing with the Nosferatu roommate too is he didn't talk. So his
Yeah.
whole thing was he was kind of a monster in that sense.
Yeah, he'd just be like stock still, and then if you moved at all, they'd just like shit themselves and run.
But the joke is that the energy vampire is just as scary, but for completely different reasons.
Because they don't know how to work with that guy. Yeah.
Or like they're trying to suck the blood from the virgins in the first episode, and they walk in, and he's like, "Do you guys detail your car? You know, there's lots of different waxes now. They build these with compounds. You got compounds." You know, you want to get into all the nooks. He just is going off.
And
Like
then all of a
20
sudden,
minutes.
he turns to the camera, his eyes are glowing red, and he's just got this like extreme energy. It's so good.
It's really good.
I also love that the energy face is definitely like.
I'm still trying to
an
get my head around the
orgasm
fact that
face.
this is real. Like that,
Yeah, yeah.
that they didn't bring on somebody who's like, I'm a vampire too. I'm an energy vampire. Fuck you, man. You're not a vampire. But like, no, it's real.
They have a real energy vampire. It's so
But
good.
they also they try to leave him out of all the meetings. Like he's so boring. They try to leave him out of all the like they're always trying to ditch him. There's at one point they're riding on the bus and they all turn into bats. And he's like, "You're never going to get there flying." And then you see they're all sitting on top of the bus, and just turn the bats to get away from him. It's great.
Well, let's jump over and talk about the Twilight Zone, guys.
Yeah,
Randy loved it.
I know that we were all pretty excited to see what Jordan Peele, the mastermind, who single-handedly wrote every single episode, directed every single episode of Twilight
I
Zone.
read that. Yeah.
So I guess his involvement was a little overstated there,
Yeah.
but he still is the narrator of this. Is he not also like kind of a bit of a producer and visionary?
He's a producer. He's got listed. He's obviously working in the writers' room because he's got a writer's credit. But the showrunner is Marco Ramirez, who you might remember from a little show called The Defenders
Oh,
and Daredevil.
man. Okay, no wonder you're trying
And
to
Da
be so
Vinci's
down on
Demons.
this.
He also worked on Sons of Anarchy.
Okay, I'm
Da
down on it
Vinci's
too now.
Demons was crazy and fast paced.
And then the other writer involved in it is Simon Kinberg, who's written a lot of the X-Men stuff.
Hold up.
Yeah.
Of course, Les, you saw Da Vinci's Demons. Of course you saw that show.
But not Game of Thrones.
of course you saw
Les,
Da
how many
Vinci's
episodes of
Demons.
Da Vinci's Demons have you watched?
Same amount as Game of Thrones 4.
Okay, all right, that's a little bit better.
Oh, man. Okay, so
But yes, I'm the killjoy here. I did not love this.
there's 2 episodes. Did everyone see both episodes?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, well, let's talk about the first one. The first one is with Kumail Nanjiani.
The comedian.
The comedian, and he plays a comedian who any material that he uses, he loses that in real life. So
Yeah.
if he talks about his dog never existed after he makes the joke. And all the jokes that he makes are kind of like just observations that aren't even necessarily funny, but
Because
he's
it's a room full of energy vampires.
he's just cursed to have like anything he says in that regard, people laugh at.
This one fit Twilight's like classic Twilight Zone for me, just because like somebody asked me what the difference was. My girlfriend Fanny asked me what the difference was between Twilight Zone and Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't this just Black Mirror? And I was
Right.
like, well, Black Mirror is specifically how technology will go wrong in the hands of human foibles, but also Black Mirror always stops short of actually saying something about criminal justice or race, or like it lays the problem out there, but it never has that third act
no
moralizing
solution.
didactic. Like, and Twilight Zone is built on that shit. Like Twilight Zone is like having a parallel ironic karma universe that just snatches douchebags out of things and teaches them like the world's most on the nose lesson.
And it's also
then-
mystical.
yeah, and it usually either kills them or throws them back into the real world. So you have stuff like Time Enough at Last, or the dude wandering out into the Nazi Germany after being a racist douche in a bar, stuff like that. The comedian fit just because it has such an on-the-nose magical thing happening that is about turning people into stories and relating to that, like turning them into material and relating to that instead of relating to the person and losing that real connection. Like it doesn't have to actually vanish out of your life, but like if you turn your friends into bits on stage and package them into funny stories, like the Hannah Gadsby thing, like you package this pain into a story that's a joke and you tell this much of it, but you don't actually process it or deal with it. You just turn it into an abstract thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of dug that about this one. That said, the comedian one could have been shorter for me. And I also
half the time.
I also didn't like the illogic of like they laughed, they heard about it, but then the whole world forgot about it. Do they remember how does anyone know that J.C. Wheeler was funny?
Like they didn't even seem to think. No, well, the thing is, okay, that's 2 things. they didn't seem to even remember the joke he told afterwards.
Right.
Because like he
Right.
says something about it and they're like, what? About like the dog thing, and they're
But
like,
then
what are
they'll
you
say,
talking
like,
about?
you killed a minute ago.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's because it's magic. It is
And-
magic.
and-
It's not.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured.
Yeah.
I was
But
like,
J.C. Wheeler wasn't a comedian that had the same curse, I think,
Was he
so
not?
much as he was a demon. He was a demon that seemed to be passing on this same curse to other people.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
that's true. If it had been Kamal Nanjiani that had passed it to the next person,
Yeah.
then but it was JC kept turning up as the demon.
Before we get to the pacing
Well,
issue,
because their greed, they wanted to know how to get his
He never moves
success.
his glass. Nanjiani comes to him and toasts.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, here's before we get to the pacing, which is one of the biggest issues I have. Kamal Nanjiani's great, and he's got we've seen him in Big Sick. He actually drama chops as well, and I think he really carried this. Tracy Morgan has one speed, and I feel like casting him as like the mentor comedian, like he didn't bring anything to it.
Oh, I disagree with you.
Really?
Here's my case.
I think I disagree too.
So
No,
Tracy
Morgan always looks awkward to
Morgan,
me.
whenever I think of him, I think 30 Rock. I think of him being crazy, doing
Yeah.
the voices.
Yeah.
And I also think of like the unpredictableness. Like he did this Fresh Air episode where he, I think, started crying. Like it's kind of hard to tell even listening to it now if it was a joke or not.
Yeah.
But on this, you see him and you're expecting him to do that and he never does it. But there's always kind of, for me, I feel like there's always that like, he's just going to lose it at any moment or like do something crazy.
There's that
It's
weird
kinda-
twinkle behind it.
It's
right?
kind of threatening a little
It's
bit.
interesting. I found him boring. I found him boring.
he never settles into roles for me. It's always
Yeah.
Tracy Jordan.
It's always exactly.
Tracy Morgan, whatever his
same,
actual name
same
is.
character. Yeah.
No, I mean, for me, I thought that he had the aura of a revered comedian who could have disappeared, but there's something a little off and a little creepy about him. And I thought, I agree that he's a bit one note,
Yeah.
but for that note
This
that
is
he
that
played,
note.
he was able to play it fine.
fair enough.
Perfectly for this. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's a smaller role.
But I do want to talk about the pacing that I think is a real problem. They set it up. They explain it. They run the joke a few more times like, oh, so we really get it. Here's another person you made disappear. Here's a bad thing that happens. And then they take – I feel like we were about maybe 10 minutes in. We got it. And you should be getting to the they should wrap this up in 30 minutes and
I
have
wish-
a tighter show.
I wish that they had done other interesting things to explore the ramifications besides just how he does this on the set.
Yeah.
Or like shown his rise to fame beyond just this theater that he kept performing in.
Yeah.
Maybe if it actually started like lining his pockets beyond followers and suddenly he was performing on late night shows.
Yeah, if he had made the final choice, like stepping on to like Leno,
right.
Yeah.
It
Or
would've-
like what someone
but it still barely got him out of the club.
what Les was saying,
Didn't,
which is like if
actually.
if you have an hour to explore a story, go ahead and show us some things like how is the audience reacting?
It's
to
not
his
like they
bits?
don't have the budget.
They've got the budget, they've got the time, and I feel like instead they showed us the same scene over and over and over again.
I mean,
they upped the ante.
I liked how they were. I liked that they twisted it a little, but they could have. You're right. They could have gone a lot farther because like they show him try to use it for good, and then they show him try to use it for something he doesn't think is bad but is selfish.
Yeah.
And I did like the ramification of how much he screws up someone else's life by
Yeah.
taking out a pin, like a
Yeah.
a linchpin moment he did or someone he
Yeah.
didn't realize was
Yeah.
that important. But again, most of the interesting exploration that happened was me pausing it and going, "That's kind of cool. But that means this, this, and this." They didn't take time in
Yeah.
the show to show me that.
And then
And they
he started,
could've.
and then like I didn't need the scene of him dealing with the heckler bros. Like that added
That one was
nothing.
redundant.
Like-
He'd already deleted some other people by then.
And I feel like the relationship between him and the other comedian could have been done better. The build up to the two of them being the one of them was going to get the gig and one of them wasn't. Like I feel like all of that was
Yeah.
left off screen, and what was on screen often wasn't as interesting as what they could have done.
So ultimately, he gets rid of himself, and by him not existing, everyone else came back because they weren't erased by
like
him.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is what's going on.
Yeah.
It's like a
See-
flipped Wonderful Life.
I think it'd have been cool if there was a whole thing about if he told the joke off mic, it was different than telling it on mic.
Yeah.
So maybe he has a good joke about himself that he tells to, like you were saying, like he's on late night now, and he tells it to the host, and the host is like, oh, you should tell that joke on late night tonight, knowing that the joke is gonna kill him, like it's killed other people, and then it ends before that, and that's like,
or he's
killing joke,
testing material on his girlfriend when it's just the two of them having coffee somewhere, and the table behind him accidentally overhears, and the where's the threshold of people?
Oh,
what if too big a table next to you overheard you tell a joke to your girlfriend and she fucking vanished?
And this is how you guys. This is where you guys are getting me here. It's like, if this was a half-hour episode, I don't need any of that. You get in, give me the premise, give me the twist ending. That's it. That's what Twilight Zone does. If you're going to do an hour, explore some of this shit.
I agree. I think that a lot of the production, the performances, the initial concept of this, it's the hype, I think it's all fun, and I was still entertained throughout it, but I agree that at points my entertainment was waning, and I was like, all right, part of this is a little tedious because we watch a lot of TV, and I think most modern audiences get all these tropes. Like we get the message, and they could have been tighter.
I feel like this is the thing. This is what I was worried about with CBS All Access. This was CBS. Had this been on a different network, I think that maybe they would have assumed a brighter audience. I feel like Star Trek Discovery doesn't do that. Star Trek Discovery is like, hey, you guys are with us, right? And it goes.
Yeah, I mean, like when they have a Spore Drive, they have a big button that says Spore Drive.
But
they show me a tardigrade. It has a logo that says TG.
I feel like that maybe it was partly the network sort of like going make sure the audience gets it, because Twilight Zone can be kind of tricky, and I don't know,
because that always
works out. I can totally see that though. I never thought it. I mean, the 50s Twilight Zones didn't exactly like take a physics degree to figure out.
Yeah, it's pretty on the nose.
It's pretty on the nose. But so I was impressed with them. Like, at least CBS did have enough sense. Like the intro looks right to me. Peele, even though I feel like I can't help but feel like he's doing a Rod Serling shtick from Key and Peele. It does help me sit in that Twilight Zone space, which lets them be a little more moralizing and on the nose. But I agree, these things should be shorter. Yeah,
I do kind of wish that Peele had played the narrator not as a Rod Serling riff. I wish he had done what I feel like was his, because I feel like you say, it feels like he's doing a character, and I feel like I wish he had done his own character, and I don't know what that would have been. But I feel like he would have. I wish he brought more of himself to it.
I'm afraid if they lost any of the classic Twilight Zone, this would have worked even less for me, because a lot of my enjoyment of the first episode was my excitement about it being Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
I actually liked the second episode a lot better, like the fake podcast and the fact that it's kind of an inversion update twist on a classic episode. They went from 20,000 to 30,000.
Actually, there was a classic comedian episode. I mean, classic,
I thought there was.
I think it was 90s, but in that one, it was a comedian who goes to hell, and the only way he can get laughs is by talking about all the awful stuff he did in his life.
So
like beating his wife and like leaving his kids,
like,
and then
none of it's funny to him.
Well, you see him on stage and he looks depressed, and everybody else is just laughing their ass off.
I haven't seen as much of the 90s one, I guess.
Yeah, let's talk about the second episode then. This one's got, what's his name? Adam
Scott.
It's also got, like, the world's douchiest rich guy from Silicon Valley.
Yeah. I love that actor.
Actually, with him, kind of like with Tracy Morgan, I got this thing where, like, especially in the beginning of the episode, like, you're acting normal. This is weird. Like something's not on.
Why are you
right.
so calm, friend?
Yeah. Why aren't you like freaking out right now?
It's the camera guy Brian from The Office as well. Yeah. Everyone's from The Office. But yeah, so this episode we have him go on to this plane, and he starts listening to the podcast. And do you guys know who's the voice of the podcast?
No, but you said it.
Yeah, it's Dan Carlin from Hardcore History.
Oh, that's nice.
I knew I recognized the voice.
Oh, yeah. He's got that great
I did not
voice.
catch what the reference has to be. There's got to be some kind of reference on the weird-ass MP3 player he pulls out from the seat back. It's like a Whipple or something is the brand.
Oh, I don't know.
It was so weird. I was like, all right.
Like a Zune or some shit, right?
No, but it wasn't. It's something specific. So I know that's got to be a reference or a drop or an Easter egg or something.
Well, I like the idea of someone getting wrapped up in a podcast, true crime podcast that's actually telegraphing the events that you're already trapped up in.
And the real time, like talking about him Like,
the premise was great.
I really dug that, and I love Adam Scott's reaction for this. Like, he really hit a good tone of sats. And
well, the thing is, this is another one where it's easy to screw things up. Like, if you act too in manic or too crazy, you're like, no one would actually do this. And I like that he goes to these crazy places, and then people talk him down. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being nuts. You're right, this is crazy. Yep. And he starts doubting himself. Then he listens to it, and he's like, wait a minute, no, something's going on. And he's stuck in this weird mystical thing, but no one would believe they are, and he sells that really well.
When the bald guy next to him is like, I'm not putting your headphones on, man, I don't want to get lice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny because he has no hair.
Yes.
Oh, that's what I said.
I had a moment of like, did they write this script and then cast that dude on accident, or did they write that as a joke?
But I liked Adam Scott's performance. Again, though, I feel like we got it, and then they spent 20 more minutes on it.
I will say this about the pacing. It is different. I find myself like forced to be patient with it and kind of enjoying that. Like, I can't disagree with anything you're saying because, there's other stuff that we watch. Well, I mean, Black Mirror is probably a good example where it just kind of hits the beats a little quicker. And with this, like there was a scene in this episode where he's going through somebody's luggage while they're sleeping.
Yeah.
But there's other people who can see him doing this.
That was weird.
It was actually a good, intense scene, wasn't it?
It was super intense. And I think it's because not only did it last a really long period of time, but it was preceded by like him not sitting down. Like, why is this guy still standing up? Like, he had done some creepy things to where it's like, okay, get away from the bathroom, go back to your seat.
I felt like the manic anxiety that Adam Scott's able to bring to the role just like helped carry the pace a lot for me.
Yeah.
I bought into how he was slowly like digesting a lot of the details and getting paranoid about certain aspects when those were ultimately red herrings from the podcast, and he was his own destruction.
Yeah, when he's basically alone on the plane, or the only conscious person on the plane, realizing what he's done.
Yeah, but you know the code, dude. Go in that room. Not that you know how to fly a plane.
Try something, man.
Yeah.
I don't know that I needed the stinger twist, but it was felt very Twilight Zone.
That's what I wanted to actually discuss with you guys. The moral of the story.
But the Twilight Zone, there had to be a third act.
But
moral.
with the idea of journalistic integrity, I guess.
Yeah.
And what do you think of that message? And when we go too far as journalists,
I didn't catch that at all. That felt so muddled.
it felt kind of crowbarred in.
Yeah.
And then I was like
didn't-
trying to like force myself to read into that.
This hasn't been about the. Yeah, I don't know. That was super weird to me.
Yeah.
It
Is
made
this
no
a
sense.
commentary on modern journalism?
Yeah, it was
because the episode wasn't.
Yeah, I thought the ending of this one didn't land as well, and I think that's part of why the first one, the first one, I thought the ending lands really well, and it takes too long to get to its point. This one, I was into it for the most of the time, even though I did think it was running a little long, and I thought the ending didn't quite hit.
When they landed on that island, I was so excited.
It's like stealth lost reboot.
Exactly. I was like, I would watch a pilot that started right here with them trying to figure out what the fuck just happened. But then all of those people are like, oh, we're going to beat you to death. I'm like, that's a bit extreme.
Grant, did I tell you about my new pitch for a show? It's a bar that the woman sets up a bar, but it's on an island.
Are you making a reference to 2 weeks ago's episode of Abby's?
Yes, actually. No, I was going to pitch you 100 different shows, all variations that take place on islands, and see if you would go for all of them.
We're going to call it Found.
Yes, it's called Found.
Because all of these people on this island have found each other.
Yeah.
In this bar.
It's beautiful.
The bar's called Found.
I will buy it.
And actually, there's another one, and it's like six friends from high school, and they've all gotten back together, and they live on this island together.
They got a rivalry with the bar that
It's
the tail of the
friends.
plane sets up.
That's what I was going to say. The show is actually called Lost and Found, and Lost is the other bar.
Yeah, Gary's bar across the island.
Yes, yeah.
All right, one more show we want to discuss here. Santa Clarita Diet is back for its like 8th season or some shit over on
season.
Netflix.
The Tim Oliphant Show.
So I didn't watch this. You guys talk about it.
Really? No.
Fantastic.
Did you watch
man, it's so good.
You watched first season though, right?
I did.
I think that I skipped the second season. I'm going to go back and watch it. But I think if you watch the first episode, At the beginning of the second episode of season 3, they give a really good recap.
I forget
Totally
how much
catches
I
you
like
up.
this show.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, it's cute. And
Yep.
then I watch it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is really
I
good.
did the same. I was like, oh yeah, cool. Santa Clarita Diet's back. And I watched like one, and then I had to do a bunch of other stuff, and I sat down and watched it, and then we watched the rest of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
I burned through it all. Yeah.
This is one kind of like what is it? The penguin one with the kid who has
Oh,
autism.
atypical.
This is kind of like Atypical, where when I start watching the show, I realize, oh wait, I was really invested in these side stories, like the stories of the kids.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you never think of that when you think of going back and watching the show, but definitely, like you were saying, you get into that first episode and you're like, oh, I really like this world.
It's a similar vein to what iZombie does.
Yeah.
I mean, real similar. It's just that iZombie is an hour-long procedural with some mythology stuff built into it. And this is a half-hour comedy with some mythology built into it.
I love the Knights of Serbia.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
I love Ethan Suplee and anything.
I
And the
love-
guy from Happy Endings.
The cast here, like the guest cast, where they brought the two guys together from Better Off Ted and
Yeah.
had them living together,
Oh,
which was
man.
such a
Yeah.
great little nod.
Oh, yeah.
They have the woman Carrie Slater-Kinney from
I forget the waitresses on
Reno
this every
911.
time.
And
too.
the waitress, man, yeah, she's great. Nathan Fillion wasn't available anymore because he's doing a procedural crap right now.
Yeah,
I
but they-
love how they
So
did
they
that.
brought in Alan
Yeah.
Tudyk and they had his face melt. That was so good.
So good.
And having Gary be a head in a jar has been
On a vase.
has been on a
Yes.
vase has been amazing.
And him with he really learned how to work that Alexa quick. He's just running it. I love it.
The guest cast on this show is amazing. Like you bring in people for an episode like Gordon Vishnick as like the big bad. He's
Yes.
great here. I forgot how much I liked him. I mean, he was great in Timeless
Yeah.
as sort of the bad guy, but him doing comedy as sort of this
He's
comedic
really
bad
fun.
guy.
Oh, Timeless. I was like, where have I seen this
Yeah.
guy before?
And his whole what he actually wants out of all the zombies is hysterical. Like makes total sense and is so mundane and boring.
Yeah. Ethan Suplee, as you point out, is fantastic here.
Who isn't good?
Everyone is good. Everyone in this is
There's
good.
got to be someone who's dropping the ball. there.
Barrymore may be the closest thing to a weak link, and
But I love
she's
Barrymore
doing
in this.
great.
Yeah.
I think it's just because she's doing her normal thing, and everybody else surprised me with like,
Yeah.
oh crap,
Timothy Oliphant.
He finds a new way to do put upon, but super like I'm right on top of that, honey.
Yeah.
Like he's got a new way to do it every time.
Timothy Oliphant, you look at him in Deadwood, you look at him in Justified, you would never guess he could play this gear.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Somebody, a friend of mine, was just rewatching some Justified, and now I want to know if the realtor joke was a joke for Santa Clarita Diet because it's how he says realtor in Justified.
Yeah,
I think it's just how Tim Oliphant says that
Yeah.
word, and
And
I think they made a joke out of it.
I think so too. I think it was him doing it, and then everybody noticed, and they fixed it.
Yes.
But I thought the drama works. Like I'm curious about the whole running thing about whether or not he wants to be a zombie.
That was really cool.
And the sort of love relationship, the relationship with the daughter and the other kid, they're like, will they, won't they? And her sort of starting to realize that maybe she does have feelings.
Ramona calling her out on like, you're willing to die for him and I'm not.
Yeah, that was
Like-
great.
Mr. Balllegs is amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
I like I like the creepy mythology of whatever's going on with them.
Also, I love how they will go for it here. Like a lobster tank full of neo-Nazis was one running thing for last season.
I love them walking into kill rooms and like,
Yeah.
why is there plastic? Oh my God, this looks like our kill room.
Yeah. I love that they blew up a fracking site.
Yes.
Like
and
they
the other
go
kid
for
that
it.
figures it out is like, I'm not going to turn you in. That was badass.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick for the people who didn't get the season 2 recap, but where did they get those bombs?
His crazy psycho
Cop stepdad.
Oh,
Like
that's
the
right.
first person she eats.
Yeah.
That's right.
They find a hidden closet of guns in C4.
By the way,
Ah.
Barrymore deserves credit for the gusto with which she tries to eat people. Like that is a great performance.
Yes.
When she
Yeah.
goes after.
Oh man, when she brings the old lady back,
Yeah.
or zombifies her,
Yeah.
and then gives her ears
Ears,
the onion
yeah.
rings
Yep.
of the body.
Yeah. Yeah, there was and I like the entire supporting cast. I like the story. I like the mythology. It never gets so dense. Like a lot of mythology shows, supernatural, those will be so dense you're like, I don't know what's happening anymore.
Every season, Santa Clarita Diet so far has walked a line of like, I want one more mythology episode than you gave me. Like, I
Yeah.
want a little
Yeah.
more backstory than you guys have given me. And at this point, season 3 finally gave me a little bit more, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of at this point glad that they keep leaving me wanting because they never stop and exposition wonk
Yeah.
like all this nerd genre shit,
Yeah.
which I would be fine with, but I would be watching it like feeling the followers for this show drop in my mind of like, and we're canceled because you explained that to me for 15 minutes. Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, because it's at its heart, it's a comedy, and there's funny stuff every episode. There's also running gags that always. Hammer knife is never not funny to me. Whenever they bring out the hammer knife, I'm always on board.
Him repeating words when he gets nervous and talking too fast is just great. The whole shoes.
I can't believe you've gotten this far into it, and you have not mentioned Natalie Morales.
Oh man, Anne is great, but I don't like her character as much in this show. Like I like what she's doing with it, but it's only just in season 3 gotten fun for me.
Yeah.
Weak link.
Yeah, I guess closest thing to a weak link. Like she was a fun foil for the TMI newly lesbian mom, the waitress's character, but that's all she was, and so I was having so much fun watching Barrymore eat people that I immediately was like, no, Anne is the cop character that could actually put a stop to this. Like, you're the enemy of this show. Like, you're the villain of this show.
Yeah,
really.
I get that.
Because I'm with the monsters and you're the cop. And so season 2 ending with her catching them trying to dispose of Fillian's head and shooting Barrymore in the stomach and then her just still advancing and and her casual like, I died and came back. I've been resurrected. What?
Yeah.
Was such a wonderful like season ending moment because she asks like, oh my God, God brought you back. I need a sign. Lord, if I'm supposed to follow this woman, give me a sign. And at that moment, the fracking sign blows up.
Yeah.
And so she's like, it is true.
Yeah. Her devotion to Drew Barrymore in this was so delightful to me.
The cult she starts.
Yes, the cult she starts.
So she goes from painting like Tim Oliphant and all these. I love that everyone hates him. Like everyone shows up and is like super nice to her, and then.
But no, the cult's fun. Did you guys? This may be a weird observation, but it kind of felt like a little bit like Beetlejuice. I mean, minus the Tim Burton stuff.
I can see that.
But I don't know. Like, it does this really good job of like having good comedy, but then also it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you can call it horror. Maybe just like horror subject matter. Or it's a zombie.
It's got
story.
a very like handbook for the recently deceased sandworms kind of like like you hate Saturn, I hate Saturn.
Yeah. That's kind of
like
the
I could see like Tim Oliphant's a very Alec Baldwin dead kind of character.
God,
that was Alec Baldwin in Beetlejuice, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was.
Wow,
a very
Gina
young,
Davis,
early Alec Baldwin role.
Yeah, McAllister's mom was in this too.
This is a show that It should probably be on my top shows at the end of the year, and I'll almost certainly forget it by the time we get to it.
Sadly, you are probably right. Like we've got another half a year or more of crazy ass television, and I feel like Santa Clarita is probably going to fade on me.
But I had a blast watching this for the course of a day.
I hope that we get a season 4 because I would watch another one in another day.
I think we are.
We have one question that I wanted to hit on because I know we're running long, but Jonathan Haft-Michael did say, hi, dudes. Santa Clarita Diet's humor lives and dies and becomes undead on the great chemistry between Timothy Olyphant and Drew Barrymore. What are some sitcom married couples that are genuinely and consistently making us laugh?
Mad About You. I'm going to go with Paul and Jamie Buckman. I loved them on Mad About You.
Yeah, they were great together. I mean, obviously, Sam and Diane were always great.
Yeah. We talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Are you thinking about what I'm thinking?
I'm
Sorry?
Yeah. The couple on I'm Sorry is amazing.
Yeah, I think they are probably the best example of a show that's on right now of like, I can't think of a better husband-wife couple on TV.
You're the worst. I honestly can't imagine who else they could be with.
Yeah. Yeah. I also I was trying to think. Oh, Curb Your Enthusiasm. When Larry and his wife were together, I actually thought they had a good rapport too, and they were always funny.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hank Dalworth and Brett. I feel like they've been common law.
They had great,
it's
common law for sure.
Yeah, they've been together long enough.
Yeah.
Homer and Marge.
Magnum and TC.
Homer and Marge is pretty good.
That's good, yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap things up there, folks. We have this has been a long episode.
There are a lot of things to talk about.
We did, yes. Folks, we appreciate you guys so much, and especially we appreciate all the Patreon support that you guys have thrown our way. It really helps us keep going, and we want to thank you guys in particular. But, all of you guys listening, that also matters.
I want to thank you all for not pointing out in the comments that our episode ran long in an episode where I was complaining about how Twilight Zone ran long. I want to thank you in advance for not pointing that out to us.
We just got to get our
'cause we
pacing
paced
right,
it well,
Randy.
Yeah.
No, it's meta. We did it on purpose.
Right. TV Dudes out. The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV Dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.